Coming up in today's video. Follow along with me and learn how to create a Samhain Husk witch doll. Having collected a bunch of corn husks, I filled a bowl with water and began submerging them. All submerged, I added a few items to keep them beneath the water. They weren't quite all under, and so I topped up the bowl with a bit more water before leaving them to soak for about 10 minutes. I then removed the weights, drained the water, and chose 4 husks, which I patted dry. Having lined up double layers back to back, I tied the ends together with some jute string. With this complete, I gently flipped down the double layers, taking care as corn husks can tear quite easily. I then took some fabric scrap, stuffed a little ball of it inside, smoothed over the sides of the husk, and fastened with some string underneath. With head complete, I next began creating the arms with another 2 pieces of corn husk. By first overlapping them, preparing some jute string, rolling up the husks, and tying them in the center with the string. It's important to have string prepared before you roll, or it may unravel left unattended. Having tied both ends with more jute string, I cut off the excess threads. Next, I chose 2 large pieces of corn husk of around the same size. These will be used to make the sleeves of my doll's dress. I cut off the excess on the ends of each husk, placed the doll's arms on top, and folded over the husks to create the desired shape of sleeve. I used little clips to keep these in place. I adjusted the size of the sleeves so that they would fit overlapping just slightly at the center of the arms. And then fasten them to this point with a bit of jute string. The arms were now ready to be attached. I placed them in the center between the corn husks and tightly bound them together, creating a body for the doll. Be sure to pull and bind this tightly. Next, I was to create the skirt. I took 18 corn husks, prepared some string, cut about 1 centimeter off each of the corn husk tails, and wrapped them one by one around her waist, tail pointed up. I then used the jute string to secure the skirt with 3 knots a little below the doll's waist. Next, I chose 3 extra large pieces of husk, cut off their tails, folded down their edges, and attached them to the doll's waist, making sure to fasten them tightly again with 3 knots. I trimmed the bottom of her skirt straight so she would stand better. I then prepared some corn silk, which I would be using later to create the doll's hair. Time to create her conical hat. For this, I took 2 pieces of corn husk, drew a circle and cut them out, leaving some excess on the width, as the circle will shrink a bit when dry. Next, I took another large piece of corn husk, rolled it into a cone, checked the size of the base I had created and also the doll's head, before another final snip. Another size check, and then it was time to clip the sides together and leave the pieces to dry overnight. A couple of days earlier, I had decided to create a few small items out of clay to go on display with my Samhain Witch doll. These items would make up a mini ancestral altar. I had also designed a little ancestor photo in a frame on my computer, which I printed and cut out. The next day, with pieces a bit drier, I drew the circle again and cut them out. I glued the circles together, then the edges of the conical hat too. I checked their sizes again, then laid them flat, placing a weight on top, and left them to dry further. I then glued the edges of the sleeves together. Cut some corn silk and glued the threads to the doll's head to create her hair. I started with the fringe first, which I then flipped over before sticking more threads to the top of her head. Ooh! I trimmed her fringe, the back of her hair, her little hands, then clipped her hair up to begin painting. I painted her hat and dress black. Then began painting the little clay altarpieces I'd made previously. I cut 3 more offerings out of corn husk before continuing my painting. With her dress dry, I let down her hair. I measured and cut some orange ribbon for her sleeves, and then also her waist. Now time for some gluing. I glued the last touches to my offerings and reinforced them with some card to keep them flat. Next, to complete the conical hat, I stuffed some scrap material inside the cone to help keep its shape, tucked the ends of the cone under and glued it to the base. I then patched up any white specks with black paint. I moved the doll's hair to one side and glued the orange ribbon onto her left sleeve. And now for the other side. And also her waist. Next, I continued making some ancestral offerings. Here I cut one end off toothpicks and wrapped some clay around them to create a joss candle which my doll will be holding later. I let them dry, then painted them. Next, I painted some cut toothpicks to create little incense sticks. I glued orange ribbon to the conical hat, attached it to the doll's head, then decorated it with a bit of black netting. And also some orange feathers. I noticed that the orange feathers I had purchased seemed to have little feathers in front, so I pulled these off to attach to her hat. I glued the 3 larger feathers together and attached them to her dress with some orange string. I used a toothpick to carefully pull up the waistband and add glue underneath to stick the string. I attached a couple of the ancestral offerings to her hands, then began setting up the display. I added some soil into the pot and placed the incense and joss candles inside. The table felt a little crammed, so I decided to put the pot on a chair instead. I then set up the little ancestral altar with candles and soul cakes. And with that, my Samhain Corners doll display was complete. Thank you for joining along with me on today's journey. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe and comment for more content. and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Samhain, Samhain, we honor all our kin. We honor those who've gone before as the great world turns again. Samhain, Samhain, we honor all our kin. We honor those who've gone before as the great wheel turns